It took a while for me to really come to grip, to say, Lord, I thought, Lord, where you lead me, I'll follow. But sometimes we say that while pushing back. But for me to walk forward while saying that and say, Lord, I give you my yes on where I'm to be. God works in generations, and I love it. And it was your time up to the plate. What it said was, I'm here and I'm ready. It was time for that generation, that includes myself, to rest.
We believe that the next wave of innovation is innovation in the area of social impact.
We want to try to bring awareness about the incarcerated.
A huge number of people are currently homeless simply because they could not get legal help.
A safe place where they can get set free.
There's no hack for human connection.
Codependency is an addiction.
Do not try to do this big thing at once. Start with a little.
When you're searching for the gold, you will get back so much more than you ever thought possible.
So what do you think? The ball's in your court.
So here we are with my dear friend and mentor, Dr. Nancy Harden, and I'm Ted Haas. And we're just going to have a conversation here. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So, Nancy, you're coming up on a big milestone next year.
Yes, I am. Are you referencing my birthday or my move?
Yeah, I'm never sure. You're not supposed to ask women their age, but you seem to be proud of it. So how old are you going to be?
My age is always out there because it's God's business. I'll be 93.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And you're also moving.
Well, I have 2 sons. And the son that's away in South Carolina has been after me for some time to move, to come where they are.
I knew it was inevitable that your natural sons would win the argument over your spiritual son.
No, I love the spiritual son. I love the natural son, but the natural son had to do with the fall that I had. And since I had the fall, and he used a word, both of the sons used the word, when they said that, I said, I'm fine. I had the fall, but I am now fine. And they said, well, we are not. We are not sleeping since you had that fall. So that seems a little bit much for one person to call 2 people not to sleep. And I had difficulty.
This is a big milestone for you.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be for this last phase of your life. It might be the last, who knows? God, you're surprised enough. Where to get?
I wonder. It took a while. Actually, it's been 3 years for me to really come to grip, come to terms, to say, Lord, I thought, Lord, where you lead me, I'll follow. But sometimes we say that while pushing back. But for me to walk forward while saying that and say, Lord, I give you my yes on where I'm to be.
Well, the reason I wanted to, I've been dying to do this, and it's been in my heart for a long time, to just have a time to have a conversation, get it all on camera, preserve it for our audience. We're going to share this. You might be seeing this on social media, but also to preserve it for posterity. You're one of the most important people in my life. You've been an incredible mentor. I met you.
But you're certainly important to me.
And I met you when came out here before I was married. So I've been married 27 years. We've known each other about 28.
Yeah.
And you've taught me so much. You've introduced me to a community that the Lord's opened up doors for us to work in. And I really feel we just did an amazing event here. And I felt your heart at the end was very calculated. And I felt it was a passing of the baton. I feel that you've raised up others, the Lord's raised up a next generation. And I think they're going to do well because they're walking in places others have paid for them. But why don't you share your experience of what just happened? We're here in the house of Web3. So share your experience.
You know, I didn't know you felt that way. I tried to tell you that was really a special time for me. I got to see you in a whole brand new way. Not because I hadn't seen you lead groups. I've seen you do that over and over and over. But the last time we were here, I did share with you, I said, something special happened today. I knew that one group was stepping off. This is not a sad thing I am saying. God works in generations, and I love it. He didn't ask me, but I've told him I love the fact that he works in generations. And it was your time up to the plate. And I love the way you hit the ball completely out of the park. What it said was, I'm here and I'm ready. That's what it said to me. Made me know that it was time for your generation. And it didn't mean that you wanted to kill off the old generation. It was time for that generation, that includes myself, to rest. He's got it.
Yeah, no, that was, in the crowds, it was there. I mean, the interaction of, I was just joking with Dan, who was there in Brazil, these young millennials or younger. I think they might even be the next generation. What's after millennials? Gen Y. No, Gen
Z?
Yeah, Gen Z. I don't know. It was, but to see these young people and to see you, or I guess you're a boomer, whatever, if they do that.
I have no idea.
Right. See, my dad's a boomer. He's 86, so you've been older than him.
I tell you this. I don't know how others feel, but I feel rested. Like you can rest. They've got it. They not only got the ball, they're running with it. And they know where they're taking it.
And to see that interaction, that was my point, to see that interaction of the multiple generations and all that you represent. So you have, how old are tell us about how many generations you have in your progeny. You have sons. How old are your sons?
My oldest son is 71.
How old is your little son?
My youngest son is 60.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Yes. So.
And then you have a lot of children.
My oldest grandson is 47.
Okay.
And
you have great-grandchildren.
Great-grandchildren. A lot. Will that work?
Do any of your grandchildren have children yet?
Yeah, my grandchildren are the great-grandchildren we're discussing right now. And the oldest...
Do any of your great-grandchildren have children yet?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But how old are the great-grandchildren?
The oldest ones are 17. I have two of them that are 17.
That's beautiful. So you're going to keep ticking until you're... Our goal is to break the record. The record's 118. It hasn't been broken in a long time. It was some lady in France. I think she died last century. So if you break it, 118, 118, 119.
Well, I tell you what, I have never asked God for long life. I've asked him for a lot of things, but I figure he's got that already calculated. And whatever he says about that, I just say, amen. My mother died when she was 29, Ted. You know that. And my father was 32.
And how old were you?
Oh, I was 2 years old.
You were an orphan.
Yeah. I was 2 when both of them died.
And that was kind of when you started learning about prayer.
Yeah, I had this aunt. God is funny, isn't he? I don't know what my mother was like. I don't know how well she did or did not know God.
You had a little sister, right?
I had a little sister who was 5 months old. And
Didn't you tell me you're the one who found your mama dead?
no, we all were in the room, but the oldest kid was 8. It was 6 of us, and the oldest one 8, not quite 9. But they all thought she was asleep. They had never seen her just lie down on the floor. The bed was right there. And the baby was crying. The 5-month-old baby was crying. And she was just lying there. So they went over to try to wake her and shake her and all that stuff, and she did not get up. So our dad had already been taken from the house because of the lawsuit. And in that day, they just simply looked for a place that had only adults. They moved the person who had tuberculosis out of the house. Till my father was an orphan, had been an orphan since he was 10. And he slept in cardboard boxes in the wintertime in Texas. And apparently that's where he got the bug, the tubercular bug. And so there he was, 32 years old, with full-blown tuberculosis, dying with it. And that's why they moved him out of the house. And with that tuberculosis, from sleeping in cardboard boxes and improperly rest and improper dress, somebody took his sister.
Your grandparents were already dead by then?
Oh, yeah.
You never knew your grandparents.
I knew my grandfather.
So
I never knew my father's
born
people.
Nearly 93 years ago.
Yes.
No, it's the same 93.
Yes.
You were born 68 years after the end of slavery.
That's what I was telling you.
Is your grandfather, who you knew, how old he would have, when you were born, he would have been. Anyways, his father would have been enslaved.
Yeah. And my grandfather would have,
He would have been fresh, right?
Right,
He would have been
right.
born. He would have
Been a baby, right? He would have been an abolition baby.
I still have his papers. He went to World War I. My grandfather. He fought in World War I.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were talking about rest and passing the baton. I think it's really about partnership. And I actually think, look at the longevity. Who would have thought?
Who would have
Going
thought?
strong at 93. There's no doctor who's going to bet on you not living another 10 years.
Well, my aunt, my aunt took in 15, she had 6 herself, my aunt and uncle. Did I tell you my uncle was a Native American from Oklahoma?
You told me that, but you haven't told it on camera yet, right?
Oh, well, he was.
Brought you in.
His mom was Choctaw and his dad was Creek. And he married my aunt. And he would come over to Texas and on Saturday nights, and they would have a little band and they would dance, So he was a musician, so he played, and that's how they met. And he was my Superman.
He was quite a character, too. He has his own backstory.
He was my Superman, Batman, anybody you want to name. He was that person.
You want to tell me that story again about the miraculous thing he did so that God preserved him so he could raise you?
That's a pretty gruesome story. Everybody can't handle that story.
It's too bad.
Okay.
Anything you share that you're not ready to release yet.
I don't care, frankly, but other people. Well, my uncle would walk across the bridge from Tulsa, Oklahoma, from that part he lived in, over into the Texas side. And the black guys over there that would be having a band on Saturday night because, they'd work like, I don't know what, like children of former slaves. And frankly, they were in the fields too, picking cotton and chopping corn and all that stuff. So what they would do on a Saturday night, they just taught themselves music or new music or however they got there. Well, my uncle found out about this group, and so they would go from like barn to barn. They didn't have the music in the same barn, and I don't really know how they went about having permission to use the barns, but they knew.
It's like raves back in the day.
I guess, but this is what they did know, because they had it to happen. If the white boys in the area found out that there was a dance and these guys were meeting in the music, that meant girls were in there. All you had to do is go in there with a gun in your hand. You could take any girl you want. And that's what the guys would do. White guys come in. Which absolutely ruined the girl's life. Period. And it broke the guys too, because they couldn't do anything about it. The few that rose up to do something about it, they were just killed on the spot. So my uncle made up his mind that when he crossed the bridge from Oklahoma, he would always have his gun. And he had it. Now, he was a teenager, but he'd come over there and he'd play his little instrument. And he said if he ever brought a girl and anybody touched that girl, came in and took that girl, when they hit the front and they pointed out, it's like a wolf pack, and you got the one you were going to get. He was going out that back door, and that's what he did. He brought a girl one night, and they pointed at his girl to come over where they were, and they held the guns on it. My uncle just went out the back with his gun, laid down beside a tree and was waiting for them to come to the back. And he said he sent them to their long sleep, the kind of sleep where you never get up. He shot them both. Bam, bam. Now, the girls wanted to grab him and said, thank you, take us with you, because they felt so insecure by that time. They didn't even want to go back inside. He said, no. He didn't go back inside either. He didn't even go back inside and get his instrument. He left walking. You don't follow me, no one else. Because this is what he knew. If the police came down there and put the pressure on those guys, they would tell. Oh, yes, sir. They would tell. Because they had done that to others. So my uncle didn't stop till he crossed that Tulsa Bridge, which is the Red River. And when he got there, he didn't go home like you would expect him to do. He went. He shot an animal out of a den that he was in. And he lived in that den because it was winter. When spring came, he moved up in the tree, bored up in the tree, lived up in the tree. He went and he cleaned houses, cleaned out chicken coops, did whatever he needed to do to make money to eat. But he told no one where he was. He lived in those trees and in those dens.
How long did he do it?
Oh, he did that 7 years. 7 years till he got tired. He had no friend, no one. He told no relatives, nothing.
Talk about Superman.
He was Superman, I'm telling you. He was Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, name it. So now that started out, that was a teenage boy. He's late teens, but that's what he did. And finally, when it got too much, he turned himself in. But he turned himself in on the Oklahoma side. If he had turned himself in on the Texas side, they would have killed him. Put him in the electric chair and killed him. And he knew it. He was in that prison. He could work like nobody's business. He's the one that taught me how to, because that's why I could pick 300 pounds a day and get cotton. He knew what each child could do. And he knew. He didn't guess. He knew. And I don't know how he knew. But after he'd been in prison for all of those years, because he went in like, he was 18 when he went in, and he's 7 years by himself, and he went in after that. So he was like 40 when he came out. That's amazing. You're supposed to say, he came out?
Wow, he came out?
Yeah, because that's amazing. Because if he'd been on the Texas side, he would have never come out. But they did let him out because he could do things like pick a whole wagon that you take to the gin to be ginned. And you not only do they gin it, but they take the seeds and turn to cottonseed oil. That's what he did, and he did it every day, anytime the cotton was good.
And then so we got out, then he went and met your aunt. Where was she?
After that, she was still in Texas. My aunt was...
her way before,
No, he met her after. And she was
a bit younger than him.
quite a bit. But he looked good. He was a good-looking man. Even, to us, and he was old when we met him, but he was a strong old man with energy. And we never understand our parents falling for anyone, but we did. Anyway, my father claimed this man, my uncle, like his father. Remember, my daddy was an orphan.
And then your dad would have been significantly younger than him.
Significantly younger. My mother was my aunt's baby sister. And so my father, Claude Smith, married Odessa Savage, my mother. And she wasn't a Savage, that was her last name.
Harden is your uncle's name.
No, Harden is my husband's name.
See, look at I'm only 53, and you're sharper than I am.
Oh,
what's your maiden name?
My maiden name is Smith. Nancy Mary Smith. But my husband's name was Harden, Harden, like that same James Harden that played ball. Yeah. That my son talked to me about. Is he still playing ball? Well, I don't know. I know my son.
Got a beard. He's called a beard. Yeah, I just saw him at the Warriors Arena.
Oh,
in fact, I
haven't seen him. My son, I like to see him because his name is also James Harden. My husband's name is James Reginald Harden. And Gary's name is Gary Reginald Harden. So anyway, he
met your aunt, got married, and tell him about, when your mother died, how did he end up adopting you? Your father went. They
don't adopt. Yeah. When my my father was in that place with those adults, just down the street from us, really. I'm sure he was sneaking to the house, don't you, at night? Aren't you sure? I am. And my mother wasn't working. She had 6 babies. He married her because she wanted lots of babies. And so sure enough, she had lots of babies right quick. 6 of them in 8 years. How do you like those apples? And so I'm sure my uncle was taking care of us anyway.
No twins. That's literally
no twins. One at a time. That's correct.
Wow.
That's correct. 5 girls and 1 boy in my family. And when my uncle came down and told my father came down to tell my sisters when they ran up to say they can't wake up, mother. He came down, and the minute he saw her on the floor, he knew she was dead. And he knew he was dying. This 32-year-old young man knew he was dying, and there lies his 29-year-old wife, and the baby's in the bed crying. So he said, get the baby. He covered her up. Told him, just cover her up. He did. He couldn't even do it. He had to have the girls to do it. He didn't have enough breath. He couldn't carry a baby. My oldest sister, the one that would be turning 9, carried my baby sister, Cleo. The next sister took my hand, the 7-year-old sister. She had my hand because I was 2. The next 2 were to hold each other's hand, and they did, my brother and the sister after me. That was the 6 kids. And we were walking, which was not that far at that time, I thought it was a little more distance, but my father was in the very, very back with do you know you've been born in the time of disposable diapers. Do you know what a cloth diaper is? Okay.
I think I wore
my father had the cloth diaper coughing out his life and his lungs up in him. And so he was back there bringing up the rear, and the children were walking all, in the front till we got to my aunt's house. Now, my father was not allowed to go in the house, anybody's house, except those adults. Any house that had children in them. And he didn't want to. He didn't want to contaminate the kids. So what he did, he sat on the swing on the porch, my aunt's porch, and all the kids went in the house and looking bug-eyed and scared, not clear about what's going on. They knew they had never seen their mama left on the floor. They had never seen their daddy come out of the place where he lived and walk, I don't care how slow, coughing all the way. And this is not Jingle Bell. Coughing blood into this cloth diaper. And then when he had my aunt came outside to see what was wrong, where she already kind of, something's wrong. Here are all the kids. Where's Odessa? That's my mother. And here's Claude on the front porch. The kid told him. So she went out and he wheezingly told her that Odessa was dead. And he had brought the kids down. Oh, yeah. He didn't have any. He didn't know what else to do with them. And he was going to sit there in that swing until my uncle came home. He admired my uncle greatly. So my uncle came home. And one day, he said, Tom, this is dead. Odessa was her name, but everybody called her Desi. Percy was born. My uncle was so stoic, so stoic. He had learned to take any blow. That Indian could take any blow.
He is Batman.
He was Batman. And my father said, Tom, you know I'm dying. They're my kids. Would you keep my kids? Tom, if you had one bean, would you cut it 6 ways and wipe it on everybody's tongue? Throw them, separate them from each other. My father had one baby sister. Somebody took that baby sister, but nobody took him. So he didn't just lose his mother. He lost his whole family, his baby sister. Frankly, I don't know what happened to his father. Nobody ever said. At that time, I questioned it myself later on. Don't know. So my uncle said, Tom, to my Claude, you have my word. I will raise them up with mine. Well, my uncle was a man of his word. You want to hear something interesting? Every one of us graduated from high school. Now, that's a big deal at that time. I was born in 1931, and everybody else except Cleo was born. Later, Cleo was born in 1932. Everybody else was born up there in the 1920s, right? We all graduated from high school. Now, actually,
Graduated from college.
Yeah, but that was on our own. That's on our own. Later,
I was just thinking.
But that was. I read. The men in Paris, Texas couldn't read. On Fridays, they would buy a paper, and they would have me to come out here. My uncle called me Mammy. It doesn't sound flattering, but it was meant to be flattering. And I'm going to tell you why. You'll see why I didn't mind it at all. He called his own mother Mammy. So he was calling me Ma, like I was Mama. And I read to all those men. They gathered on the front porch. They didn't know the news until Friday evening. And they brought up Parish News. And I read it. They learned the word Nazi from me. They learned. Well, I read it. I knew not to do too much in it. I was a child. I read it. They got it. Because remember now, I thought Germany was kind of sitting beside Dallas, Texas. My imagination as high as it could go. But I knew that the Nazis were some bad boys. And I knew that all of those guys had children that were in the service, including my uncle that went into the service. Everybody, I told you my grandfather had been in the World War I. They just thought that was the next step. Whatever was going on, you're part of that. So that's basically, and of course, we all went to, we were cotton pickers. My uncle had a big house in town. He built. Next to it was another plot as big as the land that house was on, and it was just vegetables and fruit and stuff for us to eat. And at the end, he grew animals. We had animals on the place. And my uncle, you know what kind of job God gave my uncle? He had more than one, but he worked at the abattoir. Let me tell you what I came from Paris, Texas, Frenchified. So it was a slaughterhouse, but nobody in town used the word slaughterhouse. They called it the abattoir. So I thought, I heard slaughterhouse after I got to California. So they killed hogs. They rendered the lard out in a 3-leg iron stove. When we picked cotton, we had these 55-gallon drums full of flour and meal. My aunt canned everything with shells. We had onions hanging upside down in that extra room. And that's the way it is. And show you how sharp my uncle was. Yes, I do think he's the smartest man in the world. You don't even have to say it to me. My mother had 5 girls, I told you, and 1 boy. My uncle had just the opposite. All boys and 1 girl. That man built in the backyard a long place that they called a dorm. At that time, I didn't know that college buildings was called dorms. This is a long dorm. All the boys were put out there. Then he turned to the girls and to my aunt and said, no girl will ever to go outside to the boys' dorm unless they have an adult with them. Never. The girls started to cry. Why? So we decided he didn't like girls. We didn't know that he was that smart. The guy was just unbelievable. We learned that later. What a guy, huh? What a man. And he told it to my aunt. He told it to all of us. And they had a 2-year-old just like I had, but he was a boy. And he could go back there. And I would just, he doesn't like girls. Later on, I found out that he did. He figured it out. Well, he was so good in every other way. And my aunt is the one that told us, that girls are not supposed to go for more harm. And it was an interesting place. And my aunt, see, you didn't have to wait too long. My aunt prayed out loud.
Yeah, that's how you learned how to pray.
That's right.
She talked to God as though he lived there in the place.
Well, I just so sure God lived at our house. And she called him forth. And when she got in on her knees, she made a report how we were all doing, as though God didn't know. And she went on to thank God for what he was doing. I'm telling you, every bite of food, every jar of food she jarred up that day, whatever she had done, we thanked God. And then she said, if somebody had been in trouble, God was going to hear about it. And she did tell him, and we had to hear it again. So you couldn't, after we got big, you didn't want to bring your friends down, because my aunt didn't care about who was there. She was going to pray out loud.
So that was the foundation of your prayer. Now, your early prayer was, you were pretty angry at God.
Every time I'd go to the outhouse. And I would tell God, I'm mad at you. I told him, because I heard my aunt tell God everything. So I thought I could tell him. I'm mad at you. Why did you kill my mama and my dad? I wasn't so, that's funny. I don't know how, when my dad died, how that happened, nothing. But when I got to their house, I was 2. I was looking for my mother in every room. And they tried to explain to me that she was dead. What's dead to a 2-year-older? Nothing. nothing. The very next day, I was doing it again, or that very same day, just a little bit later. And they would ask me, what are you crying going from room to room? I'm like, my mama, where's my mama?
Well, I remember, like that was the roots of once I was going to Bermuda, and I had been scheduled to go and speak at this church, and then the church had been through such trauma. One of the young members of the church had been murdered on the campus. And it's a small church.
Yeah, I know. I've been to Bermuda.
And then the pastor's wife had been battling cancer, and she was taken home. She died. Like not that soon before I come. So I'm this young guy.
Wow, yeah.
I know. Speaking, it's like when I heard all that, I'm like,
wow.
What do I have to say? I have no life experience. This happens a lot. You, out of the blue, called me. And you start talking about mourning and you share with me what you learned when your husband passed away. How did James? Tell us about that.
James, really, James had what you call a blessed dad. I mean, I didn't like it, but, I had an open door like my aunt. My uncle also had a nephew that lost his parents through death, and my aunt just said, yeah, and who are these other two? And the boy said, well, their parents died, and they don't have no place to go. They were staying at our house. My aunt said, you come on in too, you come on too. It was that's what I've heard all my life. So that's what I do to anybody who needs, and in my church. Yeah.
No, someone's staying with you at your apartment.
Somebody's always so,
needs help. They're having a surgery or going something. They need help. You're helping them.
So
93-year-old Nancy.
But that's supposed to happen.
Yep.
That's what kept me going, I'm sure. People in the town would say, Beulah, I got the girls for the next dresses. I'm buying material for the next, holiday coming up. Now, these people had children. They could barely take care of them, but they wanted to be involved with these children because the house was full of them. Because also, remember, when my uncle went out there and butchered up all that meat, he had us to walk down the street and give a piece to this one, a piece to that one, a piece to that. Huh?
Wise man. The community's taking care of it.
Yeah, it did that anyway, yeah.
It's really all of our advancements, but
yeah,
maybe that's something we need to.
So I thought it was the way everybody lived, to tell you the truth, because basically my sisters did that, same thing. And I had two sisters who continued on to school after they got to California, and they became nurses, which doesn't surprise you a bit. They were caretakers. So that's the way it was. And my brother was he's as much like my uncle was. He actually tried to be, he wanted to be. And he was a good brother.
Tell us, you were talking about James and his blessed death.
Thank you. So James just went to bed. We had this girl staying at our house because her husband was in jail, young woman. And so we were that night, James, an ice cream eater. He had run down to Lucky to get some ice cream. I am not an ice cream eater. But he always say, have a spoon so you can share. Everybody can see everything is all right. So I did. And I don't mind eating ice cream in a cone. I don't like to eat ice cream in I don't know where that came from. I just do not.
Yeah, my ice cream in a bowl.
Yeah, but that was different. Anyway, so we were up late when he decided to go get the ice cream. And they ate the ice cream. We all went to bed. What happened is the clock, I get up to come downstairs because I have prayer every morning at 6 o'clock. I got a prayer group, always have, don't remember when I didn't have a prayer group for 6 o'clock prayer. And
right now, Monday through Saturday, 6 to 7 a.m.,
Yeah.
lead a prayer group. There's anywhere from a dozen to 3 dozen people on the call
Yeah.
every single morning at 6 a.m.
yeah, amen.
Daughters and your godsons.
Amen.
I join periodically.
Yeah, thank God for you.
It's amazing. And if anyone wants to be part of some really amazing intercession, I mean, when these people pray, they really pray. I call it 100 proof prayer. Just reach out. Well, you can be part of Mom and Nancy's prayer every morning, West Coast time, 6. And you got people from all across the world joining it, right? Yeah.